Hello, and welcome to the Quantum Fit Podcast. I'm Taylor, and I am your host. This podcast is all about applying the different principles of quantum physics and quantum biology to your health and fitness. This gives us a holistic view of how different environmental factors, such as sunlight or cold, play a major role in your overall health. So I won't just be talking about diet or exercise and developing good habits. If you want to really make lasting changes in how you feel, think, and act, then I'd recommend you try to listen closely and have an open mind to what I have to say. Every day I'll be hitting you with a quick 7 to 15 minute long podcast. I keep it short like this because it makes it both informative and to the point so that you don't feel quite so overwhelmed with information. Also, currently I do not do any kind of advertisements. So instead, I ask that you share this podcast with a friend or family member if you enjoyed the message and gained something from it. I want to be able to spread quality and easy to understand content that everyone can take and use in their own daily lives. I would highly appreciate it. On to today's episode. What is food's role? Today will be a shorter, more dense episode. We're going to cover why food isn't really a good way to power our mitochondria. As Jack Kruse would put it, think of food as hormone juice. It contains substrates to build and maintain levels of all of the biochemicals in the body, from hormones to large tissues. Food provides essential building blocks that we use to build, everything else. It also provides us an ample source of deuterium-depleted water, which is probably honestly, one of the biggest benefits behind eating very few carbohydrates and upping how much seafood and meat you eat, besides the vitamins and minerals that are in it. The deuterium depleted water it plays a big role. So just think of food as creating the solid materials in our body and basically building a space or an environment that allows us to actually generate energy, but it's not what directly allows us. It's not directly generating energy for us. It's a very indirect effect. Not saying you can avoid eating food. You have to eat food, and you should be eating food, obviously. But again, think of it as hormone juice. So when you take all of the complexity out of the electron chain transport in mitochondria, and you just look at the end products of energy generation, you get, just a bunch of ATP. It depends on what fuel source you use, but, certain fuels you can end up getting a lot more. Anyways, and then you get two waste products, H2O and CO2, or water and carbon dioxide. So this is where all carbon dioxide in your body comes from. It, literally is an end product of creating energy, which is kind of interesting because, they consider the water and carbon dioxide to be waste products, basically. We just get rid of them. But I already have 2 episodes that dive into, carbon dioxide and why it's extremely beneficial for us. As you increase your tolerance to carbon dioxide and increase how much of it is in, you allow in your blood, you are suddenly allowed to utilize oxygen much, much, much better. I wouldn't really consider it, a complete waste product in that case. Same goes for that water. I'll get into that at the very end, though. Now, the whole process of the electron chain transport. The whole process is essentially about carrying high energy electrons into and through mitochondria until they can be used to reduce oxygen to water, which is the very last step. This is where oxygen will come in, come in and accept the electron, and it ends up combining with hydrogen, and that's how you get the water, because mitochondria has huge, stupid amounts of hydrogen in it. That's what makes it very, very highly acidic, like a battery. What's interesting is that creating water this way, it also releases a ton of energy in the form of light and heat. So the total amount of energy, or power, I guess, of this is somewhere between 240 and 285 kilojoules per mole of water, which a mole of water is about 3.5 teaspoons of water. So again, that was like between 240 and 285. For reference, an egg has around 75 calories, which then converts to becomes just about 314 kilojoules. Okay, water is short, at most like 70, 75 kilojoules. At the least, it's like 30 kilojoules short, which means that, there's a lot of power in creating water. We create crazy amounts of energy or power from it. And also a fun fact, this means that mitochondria are quite literally fusion reactors, highly efficient ones. Also keep in mind that the light and heat generated from creating the water is going to be used to drive cellular processes. Roughly 60% of the energy goes to light, and the rest is given off as heat. Although we already know that, the heat is going to be used to make more structured water. So it's not like the heat is a waste product. So, basically the whole process ends up being all the energy that's released from creating water will be utilized. Now think about the implications of this. Our electron chain transport, technically speaking, only needs high energy electrons as an input to make it run, assuming the structure doesn't have problems. That's where food fits in. All right, so what's the best source of high energy electrons? Is it food, or is it high energy electrons we trap in our structured water from UVA and UVB light that we get from the sun? I'm sure you know the answer. This means that, assuming again we get sufficient amounts of building blocks from food, we can meet most of our energy needs simply from being in an optimal environment and connected to nature. Now, why do you think so many people have problems with eating food? They binge. They're always freaking hungry. Could it be that they aren't getting sufficient high energy electrons from processed garbage? Maybe this is also why studies show that increased sun exposure reduces our caloric needs. Did you know that? Not only does it reduce your caloric needs, but interestingly, sun exposure itself actually reduces your fat. Not by increasing metabolism or anything, it actually directly causes your body to drop fat. That's a whole nother effect, but anyways, cold exposure, same thing. That also reduces your need for calories, since it makes cells become more and more efficient at utilizing and creating energy. Granted, depends on how cold you get, If you start shivering and everything, or, you're exposed to really deep cold, obviously you need more calories to just so you can actually create heat to keep yourself warm. But the amount of energy, mathematically you should need is much higher than what you actually in real life need in order to keep yourself warm, if that makes sense. Again, it's because you become more and more efficient. The food you're eating, you're no longer using for, as much for generating energy as you are using it to just burn off as heat. Once again, as long as you're getting enough animal products, all that the electron transport needs as an input to generate energy is high energy electrons, which can either come from food, which is a poor source, or UV light, which is a free and extremely potent source. Also, remember that much of the energy we end up with comes from the creation of water. One final side note to finish up. What kind of hydrogen do you think is kept inside the mitochondria and is used for creating water? Only protium. What kind of water does mitochondria create since there's protium? Deuterium depleted water. What happens to deuterium depleted water when it absorbs energy? It becomes easy water. Mitochondria build easy water within your body directly from creating energy. Interesting stuff, huh? All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions and comments, find me on Instagram at RealQuantumFit, the Quantum Fit Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, Taylor Kelson, or through a voice message across the Anchor app. See ya!